Welcome back to Sunrise Daily. Well, the $1 billion approval for the procurement of arms continues to generate more reactions, as you may have seen in some of the dailies we reviewed today. Well, joined this morning by two gentlemen to shed more light and discuss this matter, if you will. On my immediate right, we've got Mr. Garba Shehu, who is the Senior Special Advisor on Media and Publicity to the President. And we've got on my extreme right, Dr. Emmanuel Agbo, Deputy National Secretary of the PDP. Gentlemen, thank you for coming on this morning.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure.
Sure, let me start with you. I mean, as we see in the papers, there's reaction everywhere. You might have even heard in the news. People are talking about the procedure for approving these funds. But we'll get to whether or not they want us to proceed and fight this insurgency. But about the procedure, they think appropriate steps are not being taken approving the money.
I think a lot of the judgments here are hasty because, you know, as you see the government doing Federal Executive Council approvals, ministers will have gone to the president, possibly seek approval before they present to council. Council will approve and then say go to National Assembly. The process has begun. It's not concluded. So therefore, everyone will be involved. The president will not sidestep, will not breach the constitution of this country.
So is it a question of the choice of words? I mean, for the president just...
No, approval at his own level is granted. So there's nothing controversial.
So Dr. Agbo, was the PDP hasty when you did ask people using the words reject that approval from the president?
Thank you. And we're delighted that this is an opportunity again to come before Nigerians and state clearly that we cannot continue to act for integrity, due process, and accountability and turn around and do directly the opposite. This is retracting, in my considered opinion and in the opinion of the People's Democratic Party, the words or the actions of Mr. President. The Chief of Defense Staff came out very clearly and loudly and stated that rising from the meeting, the President has approved. And you cannot now turn around and say that after a presidential approval, you start seeking parliamentary processes and procedures. That we have brought that to the fore as a party, as an opposition party, that we have stated very clearly, without mincing words, that this is a misnomer. Okay. It's an breach of process.
Let me follow up on
and cannot be accepted.
Okay, so
for the spokesman now to come and begin to say, you get presidential approval before subjecting it to legislative procedure and processes, is only an insult on the sensibility of Nigerians. Yeah, because the fact is this, these are clearly...
Mr. Agbo, let's
round up very quickly.
Okay. Because we need to let it go back and forth, so we can get both views.
You know, what I am trying to derive out here is this. The demand was placed at the presidency, and he knows that, yes, what he needs to do is to subject these demands at the level of discussions within the executive and now pass it on for the legislative approval that will now be subjected to his own final approval.
So are you saying that this approval is a final approval?
Of course, there is no two ways. You don't have to... How will the sitting president of the country give double approval to a single issue?
Mr. Shehu, he thinks it's double.
I don't know what role Dr. Agbo played in the PDP administration that we replaced. In our case, and I believe that they had it in the same way. Attorney General will bring draft bill to the Federal Executive Council. The President will approve and then say, take it to the National Assembly. The draft budget that we have before the National Assembly, the Federal Executive Council sat and approved it and said, take it to the National Assembly. So I think these people are just blowing hot air, and we can understand why.
Mr. Agbo, I just want to ask you, based on your submission, when we look at the levels, the steps that have been taken to get to this point, you'd consider that the National Economic Council, chaired by the Vice President, and the Nigerian Governors Forum, at least representatives of the NGF were there, that they had made an initial approval before it went to the President. Now the President has now approved. Given the various levels of approval that have already been given, is it so far-fetched to believe that multiple approvals would take place before it gets to National Assembly for final approval?
Well, I want to believe that from the submissions of Alhaji Shehu here, that they should better look for the proper words and not approval. Approvals, I mean, we don't need, this is where Nigerians think that they are being taken for granted. The fact of it is, at the level of the council, requisitions are made. We demand $100 billion US, $10 billion US, as the case may be, based on the aggregate of the totality of the demands. And you now approach Mr. President because he and he alone can now direct such requests before the appropriate authority, the National Assembly. Remember, we are talking about a fund that is not within the budget provisions. We are talking about moving from the excess crude fund that belongs to not just the federal government, but the federal government, the state, and the local governments. And if the state governors are acting on behalf of their local chapters, such request that we now remove state funds should even be submitted and subjected to approvals of the various state parliaments.
The state parliaments were part of a decision. I remember all of them came to the villa, the speakers of the state houses of assembly came to the villa and voiced their approval for this.
No, that is absolutely wrong procedure. The speakers cannot and will never act by voice approval on behalf of a state parliament. These are issues that are supposed to be subjected to a vote in each of the parliaments of the states. And so you cannot tell me that one speaker, any speaker that does that, risk his removal outrightly as speaker of such a parliament.